What's up, everybody? It is SC Romero at the PPR Show and Jesse Moeller at JMoeller05 from the Fantasy Football Universe, here to bring you a live Superflex mock draft. We have a lot of our friends joining in with us, and we actually already started with the 101 on the clock. We're seeing who that's going to go, but this is going to be an exciting time, going on with these Superflex mocks. Jesse, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Enjoying this. It's gonna be interesting to see. Look like our buddy starting out with the timeout automatically, and we're rolling, as you could see. Unfortunately we didn't set this up the best. Where our buddy who's controlling the mock isn't with us, so it makes it a little interesting to watch. But as you can see, we had Caleb go 101 and Marvin Harrison go 102. It seems pretty shocked to me. How are you feeling about this mock?
Yeah, I think that's good. The biggest question, I think Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, I love it, 103. The biggest question is right there. Jaden Daniels, is he going to slip up to that 102 spot? I think that's what everyone's anticipating right now is where is Jaden Daniels going to go? If he falls to you at 104, fantastic. But I think there's a chance we might go Caleb Jaden as we get to the actual draft time.
That's me. I've been there the entire time. So, yeah, Jaden's my QB2, and I'm totally fine just, taking the swing at 102. I know people are very bullish on Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. They're trying to push them up there. It's just my thought process is how high can the wide receiver go, value wise, if you're drafting for values? They're capped compared to these quarterbacks. So for me, I'm always going to chase a quarterback if it's one of those guys who has that elite upside, which, Jaden Daniels does. So personally, I get it. But the top six we talk about are just they're money picks this year. They're absolutely money picks.
Yeah. So recently in one of my leagues, I traded the 103 and 208 for Jerry Jeudy, George Pickens, and the 106. So I'm part of me feels I don't think Jaden falls, but part of me feels Malik can fall because if you have Drake May, and Brock Bowers go, Drake May's right there. So now it's on you.
Yep.
I think Bowers is the safest pick, right?
I think so too.
It's
also this is tight end premium draft, so that takes a little bit. I have them back to back in my rankings, and I really want to split it up basically with landing spots between these two because I'm very bullish on Odunze. I've been talking about this for a long time. I think he's a fantastic prospect. My buddy who behind me he's a UW guy. He went to UW, so he's gonna want Odunze. So I could just take him here to snipe him, but I'm gonna play the safe play, and I'm gonna go Bowers here and just lock in that elite tight end.
The question I think comes out in non-tight end premiums though, is it Odunze at that pick? Because it's a lot for Bowers at tight end premium.
The way I treat tight ends is if I get a chance at an elite tight end, even in non-tight end premium, I might lean towards Bowers in this situation. But they're so close for me because Odunze is basically going to be a locked-in top 10 pick. I get the feeling that I'm going to be splitting hairs with landing spot and situations between the two of them. So it really is team build. I don't see much of a difference between the two of them personally. How do you view the two of them?
That's fair. I think the top six are exactly what they are here. The order is going to be what's changing up, but I think that's the exact top six that we're getting there. JJ McCarthy at 108. He's rising some draft boards, and people think he's going in the first round. Bo Nix at 110 is interesting. I'm not mad at Troy Franklin. I would have gone Bo Nix there, but the guy in front of me knows I'm an Oregon fan, so that's probably why he took him. But I would have let him drop to me. But Franklin too, back to back. I was hoping Franklin would have got to me, but I'm not mad at 110 if this guy right here goes to me and Brian Thomas. I think that's still a solid pick. That would have been my 109 there instead of Bo Nix for me.
Yeah, I like that. So interestingly enough, if JJ McCarthy gets that top 15 draft capital, which looks like it's more than likely going to be a top 8 is how I expect this to kind of play out because you have these wide receivers here. There's a lot of good wide receivers like we're talking about where you took Thomas out of LSU, but you have people love Worthy people. Some people are into Mitchell. Some people are into Coleman. It's a lot of good options in this back end spot. So it's a big tier for me personally.
So I do have someone in my league trying to get that 106 and is offering me that 112. I will maybe try to get the 111, 112 because that's a teardrop, but I don't think I have Mark Andrews and Trey McBride in that league, so I don't necessarily need Bowers if he falls to me, but something to consider there as well.
We're flying right now.
Corum at 2-1. That's nice. I think that could be some good stuff. Then you have Wardy, Jatavian Sanders, Trey Benson, and Adonai Mitchell, and now it's back to you. What are your thoughts about those 5 picks there?
So I like all of these guys, particularly in tight end premium, getting Sanders in the early second. It reminds me of what we were doing with Laporta last year. Obviously, I don't expect him to have the season Laporta did, but you can make the case getting Sanders in the second might be a better value than Bowers in mid first, just because the players and opportunity costs going around them. But overall, like this is the shot you're talking about. Like you get Corum in the Chargers, he's going to be up there. Benson, I think he's a really good running back. We have Mitchell and Worthy. Interestingly enough, like we have the Texas guys right there, so it's kind of pick and choose. For me, like where I'm looking at the draft and who's available, I really just want to get my favorite guy out of this list, and I think you know who I'm going to go here with, and it's Bucky Irving. He's just I just love Bucky Irving. He might be my RB1. He's sitting on my RB2, but like getting him at the 206, like I'm more than happy with that all day. Like I fully expect him to rise come draft day, but
I think that's I think that's Frizz. You know, Cora may be a little bit early for me, but I think that's the Frizz 204 to 206 is where you're seeing Bucky, Corum, Trey Benson go. Maybe even throwing some Braden Allen, maybe, and maybe even Jonathan Brooks, but he just went after Love McConkey, who went 207, which was nice. I think McConkey will actually possibly go earlier. I think he's going to be top 40 pick, and he might, rise up in the value in your drafts there. We'll do
I'm with you.
The comment Beachhead in our draft said, I swear this was a snake draft. Always double check that because that could definitely play a factor. But in rookie drafts, they should all be linear.
Yeah, they should all be like this, where you're not getting the snake back. Like that would just be a weird setting. So yeah, it's always gonna be like this in rookie drafts.
I love Marshawn Lynch, Jalen Polk there. See, and this is where I think if I'm on the clock right now, this is the board that comes to me.
Who are you leaning here?
I think Allen. I think you have to take that value there, younger running back there. And I like the running backs in the second round. I don't think any running back goes in the first. Maybe if one slides up to the first round in the NFL, but I think this is the huge part where you get a young running back who can be developed and built. He has the body type. I've seen the comparisons of AJ Dillon. You don't want that, but then I also heard some people say Derrick Henry, right? So two completely opposite spectrums of it. So you hope you see for the stars there, but I think that's still good for it to get him there. And in the second round alone, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 running backs so far. So I think the second round is going to be feasted with running backs in every draft.
I think that's how it's going to play out, right? Because we have the top, basically 8 guys if McCarthy sets that off, and then we have that tier of wide receivers everybody likes, and then it's basically pick your running back, and they're all clumped together because we don't have draft capital right now. So it'll kind of sort itself out. Like we'll probably see a running back go right where the 203. Like I'm expecting that range for a running back. Like that's going to be the first running back that goes out. Whoever it is, I don't know, but we'll see him start flying off there.
Well, he paused the draft. That's interesting,
but I don't know.
He just said something in the chat, but. Spencer Rattler, I like that at 212 too. Spencer Rattler doing that is good. He wanted us to do a recap of the round.
Yeah, let's recap the second round. So we had the 201, we had Blake Corum go. The 202, we had Xavier Worthy. Our second tight end goes off the board at 203, Jatavian Sanders. Then we have Trey Benson at 204, we have Adonai Mitchell at 205. My personal favorite, Bucky Irving at 206. Lad McConkey, who falls to 207, which is really good value. And then we have a running back run here. We got Jonathan Brooks at 208. We got Marshawn Lloyd at 209. Jalen Polk, 210. Your guy, Braylon Allen, the 211. And Spencer Rattler rounding out the second round. How do you feel kind of like how the second round played out?
The biggest, Polk is the one there. I would have probably went Corley, maybe there, maybe Estime as well. I really am starting to grow on Roman Wilson. I think he's going to be someone that slides up into that. And even Purcell from Florida. I think that's someone that's going to be great as well. Wilson, there's a steal. Penix, I think third round is a steal. I wouldn't get him in the second, but I think he is going to go more so in the second. But I think if you get Michael Penix in third round at 303, that's probably a steal because he's going to be a top 50 pick, I think. So
yeah, it's tough to pass that up. Like 100%. You're getting your opportunity chance at a quarterback, and if you can get a quarterback who's going to give you value in the third round, that's an automatic win. So it's interesting how these drafts are always like playing out. There's a ton of wide receivers in this draft, and this continually happens. We see this all the time. Like I'm looking at the wide receiver board right now. We still have Corley, whose people are continually comping to Debo. We have Tez Walker out of North Carolina. We have Xavier Leggett, who's just a freak show. We have my favorite, Jalen McMillan. We have Ricky Pearsall. We have the tight end, aka Johnny Wilson. There's just a ton of guys here. And you can even take some running backs. Like we have SAM. We have Dylan Lobb. I know people like him. We get in a little dicey with like Gore and Mine Williams and those guys, but there's still good value in the third. So, personally for me, I'm just gonna take my favorite guy out of this group, and it's been Jalen Millen the entire time. Like he continues to fall, and if I'm getting in the mid third, like I'm more than happy to snag Jalen Millen right here. So I'm gonna take Jalen Millen.
People are taking Jalen Polk over him, which I'm not mad at, but also
Mhm.
McMillan. I mean, he was the guy before Polk. The only reason why Polk
Yep,
got playing time is because he got hurt, right? And then he
100%.
wasn't coming back, and he just Polk just kept shining. Nothing wrong on that. I like it, but McMillan, I think, is going to be that wide receiver that slides, and that's also going to be one of your steals there because he's going to be the best of the guys that are there, right? I think out of this bunch, Javon
Yeah, we got
Baker, Roman Wilson, Jermaine Burton, I think McMillan would have been the guy there. That would have
yeah, and
changed.
then I mean, there's a couple guys with the ADP not fully setting. Like we have Thrash falling down, Rice going down. Like I still like Cohen. There's a bunch of guys here.
Mhm. I was hoping Brendan Rice would have got to me. So right after you was a great pick there. And then Estimate, as we were just talking about, is good there as well.
Yeah, one of the guys in the chat said I see
Mhm.
sneaky suspicion where you're going. It's like, yeah, people know who I like, so there's no surprise.
You were taking McMillan there. That's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
and I'm fully not comfortable with ADP yet, so like I'm seeing a few of these guys. Like
It,
it's still pretty good values.
and if the draft falls the way it's falling for the 106 spots, you have 106, 206, 306. I am very excited coming away with what you have in Bowers, Bucky, Irvin, and McMillan. I
Yeah,
think each round of those are still Bowers. You can contemplate it's not the steal, but I think that's a solid 106 spot right now. Unless Odunze gets him in draft capital, then maybe you can argue that. But I think that's a solid lineup there at 106. Benson not at
there we go.
39 is
I like
a
that.
phenomenal pick as well. The tight end group, I feel everyone's talking about Sanders and Bowers. Combine's coming out, so things may change a little bit, but I feel Chenault's gonna be one that rises that people are gonna fall in love with him, and a couple other tight ends within this class as well.
Yeah, I think Sanat is very much like a safe floor play at tight end position. You know what you're getting out of him, and it's like compared to Sanders, like I think he has a higher floor than Sanders. Like I just think he's a safer NFL player. Sanders
Right.
is a little bit smaller. Like you need to kind of work him in a specific way. Like Sanat's going to be on the field a lot. He's going to be doing everything you need to do as tight end. So if you're looking from an NFL perspective, I feel much safer going with the Sanat than I do someone like Sanders.
I was hoping Ray Davis came to me. I really like Ray Davis. I think he's gonna be a solid back. And 310s of steel. Beachhead again knows some of the guys I like, so he purposely chose a spot ahead of me to snipe me. He even told me like, "Haha, you saw what I picked." I was like, "Yeah, man, I saw it." But so when I'm here, Ches Walker really let me down. I just think you see the mishaps that he happens, and this year it was just I don't think he's gonna be guy maybe end this season guy that's worthy, but I'm not gonna necessarily draft him. So here I'm looking at Corley and Purcell. Honestly, I'm probably gonna go Corley. I just think he's gonna get the better draft capital. But if you're going 4 rounds, Ricky Purcell is the guy I'm trying to target there. I think that's
Yeah,
gonna be a guy that's going to feast. Xavier Leglet running out that 3rd round. But yeah, I mean, I
that's
think that
smart.
was a solid round draft. Let's go ahead and recap the full draft.
Yeah. So you want to do it? You want to do the third round?
Yep. Yeah, so let's start off. We super flex mock. First round we went Caleb Williams 101, Marvin Harrison Jr. 1-2, Malik Neighbors 3, Jaden Daniels 4, Drake May 5, Brock Bowers 6, Odunze 7, JJ McCarthy 8, Troy Franklin 9, Bo Nix 10, Brian Thomas Jr. and Keon Coleman 12. Thoughts on that first round?
It seems pretty standard. Like we're kind of getting under the assumption of what these guys are getting draft capital wise. I think it's good. Like the back end's going to tank a little bit because like we had Franklin, Thomas, Coleman. We're not entirely sure where they're going. Some guy could fall, some guy could rise. So I think that's kind of like how I would expect at this point in time. Most of these drafts to play out with McCarthy jumping to 108. Like I think he's going to stay there, and then it's kind of grab your guy in the 109 through 112. Like there's a good like 8 to 12 guys. Like I could make a case for it in that range personally.
Right. I think Nix and Coleman in the mocks that like we've done with people with our guys at the FF Universe, Mad Scientist, Aaron and Jeremy FF Rebel. That's the first time we see Nix and Coleman go. Coleman always slides to the 2nd round for us, and Nix around that 2. That's friends 110 to 2-3 is like where we're seeing Nix possibly go, even with McCarthy. So I'm not mad at that, but again, the capital is gonna be something different because if Thomas goes late first and then Coleman goes right after beginning the second, Nix then goes, I think that's something that they can switch over.
100%. Like I can see a few of them moving around a few spots depending on where we go. Like it's all draft capital dependent at this point. Like we have the combine coming up and it's like really fast. It feels like a couple weeks.
Right.
But outside of that, it's just like it's gonna be here before we know it, and then we'll get those inputs and we'll be like, okay, we'll make the changes and adjust based on players. Because a couple of these guys in the 2nd round, they're gonna fall off the map. Like that's just how it's gonna work. They're not gonna get draft capital. Somebody's gonna fall, so it'll tinker. But I think with that top 12, we kind of have a good idea of what we're doing.
Who do you think the second round? We'll recap it one more time, but then the question will be, who do you think falls off the map then? So you have Corum at 2-1, Wardy at 2-2, Sanders, Javian Sanders at 2-3, Trey Benson 2-4, 2-5 is Adonai Mitchell, 2-6 Bucky Irvin, 2-7 Lab McConkey, Jonathan Brooks 2-8, Marshawn Lloyd 2-9, Jalen Polk 2-10, Braden Allen 2-11, and Spencer Rattler 2-12. Who is most likely to fall off to you?
I think it's Rattler if he doesn't get like the draft capital. If he's day 3 guy, like then just CNR, like people aren't going to take him, right? But if we're talking about these running backs, it's either going to be like Lloyd or like I think Allen's the safer of the two. So my guess is Lloyd. Like I feel like Lloyd is coming into the league a little bit lower, even though he has a lot of traits I like personally. I just don't know if he's going to get the draft capital. So if I was going to say either one of these guys doesn't get the draft capital, I think it's going to be Lloyd. And then as much as I like Bucky Irving, the draft capital is still a question mark with him.
Man, I have Lloyd as my RB2 right now. I moved him up after seeing some more tape on him. But yeah, I think that's a good candidate that can possibly drop. Polk too,
Yep.
because you look at that next round that we'll talk about here, but some of those receivers in the next round, I think, are candidates to go ahead of Polk, not only in your rookie draft, but also the NFL draft. So I think if Polk doesn't test well at the combine or his pro day, but you have someone like Malcolm Cordy or Brendan Rice that just showcase different, their speed, their shuttles, all that kind of stuff, then that's a possibility for him to drop and possibly become that day 3 pick rather than a day 2.
100%. And like we can see someone who went the last pick of the draft getting that draft capital just because they're the prototypical build for a wide receiver. Like he's a freak, he's big, athletic, strong, fast, like all that stuff. The NFL teams like that. So they may chase just that skill set of his size and speed. And they might push some of these guys down. So I could see some of these third round guys like you're talking about fully coming up.
No.
I like Benson. I don't think he's really going to rise too much just because I don't think he's going to get premium draft capital. But
Right.
I think he'll sit in this range where he's just going to be a value.
Then speaking of the third round, we had Jermaine Burton go 3-1. That was an auto pick, so I don't necessarily know. That's probably I'm gonna blame the auto in the draft board on Sleeper because I don't think he would be 3-1 anywhere. But then you have Roman Wilson 3-2, Michael Penix 3-3, Javon Baker 3-4, Will Shipley 3-5, Jalen McMillan 3-6, Brendan Rice 3-7, Audric Estime 3-8, Ben Chenault 3-9, Ray Davis 3-10, Malachi Corley 3-11, and then Xavier Legette 3-12. What are your thoughts just all around there?
So I think Penix is really interesting. If he gets the locked in capital, he's going to rise. Like he's not going to be a third round pick. If he gets top 50 capital, someone's going to want him. Someone's going to chase it. We know how super flex drafts go. People love quarterback. They constantly chase it. So he'll get the bump. I think Roman Wilson is really good value because I am much more certain he's getting draft capital than I am for someone like Burton or Baker or even McMillan and Rice. Like I think Roman's has the best chance of getting that draft capital, and people are just fawning over him at the moment. Like they're telling themselves all these amazing stories of him. The Senior Bowl, how he won the national championship in Michigan, and he just has been just a stud the entire time. So I think him and McCarthy, like those two guys from Michigan, are the ones that are getting the biggest bump from basically the season and the Senior Bowl and all of that stuff.
Right.
How do you feel? How do you feel about this third round? How do you think this played out for you? Is this kind of how you would expect it to go?
In my draft position at 11, I don't know if Braden Allen gets to me. I think there's too much hype for him, so I don't know if he necessarily gets to me. Corley too. I think Corley's someone that could get some draft capital. So I don't know if he drops all the way. Like I think I was more expecting like a Ray Davis or maybe a Shipley to get to me, or even Javon Baker. Javon Baker is a sleeper, though. I think he's a talented wide receiver that you want to watch out for him. He's probably going to be a day 3 pick. He could slip into that back end of the third, but I think that's a receiver that in the third round, that's a target, especially if you have those late picks. Roman Wilson, 3-2. I think Roman Wilson is really going to go around that Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen Polk area, that 2-9, 2-10. I think he's going to be the back end of the second. Maybe if he gets high draft capital, early second, but I think he's going to be more into that back end of the second there. If I'm Will Shipley was a little. Will Shipley's going to be a day 3 back. I don't see him going day 2, and so I don't know if he's a 4th round pick, sure, but if he goes in the 5th round, I just don't know where he's necessarily going to be at. So that's going to be an interesting one to look at. Brendan Rice, I think people are going to chase that name. Like I'm not saying they're chasing Marvin Harrison's name either, but I think that name is going to hold a lot of value. And that goes for NFL teams too. They're going to be like, well, he's been training with Jerry Rice his whole life, right? So I think that's going to boost his stock there. So now it's interesting. You have Brevin Spanford as well. You have Kate Stover as well. So I do like that the tight end win in each of our rounds is one. Again, that's why that fourth round, I think, for me, if you're in Dynasty, depending how deep it is, but fourth rounds are critical because I think fourth rounds have a lot of sleeper potential. And we still have guys like Tez Walker, Purcell, Thrash, Cowan, Anaya Smith, Spamford, Lobby, Frank Gore, McClellan, Mayan
Mm-hmm.
Williams, a lot of guys still on the board that you want to just fill it out there. And of course, you can cut them after OTAs and camps and things like that. But the last two picks there, Malachi Corley and Xavier Leggett, I don't think they get to you. I think those are two guys that are going to get some kind of draft capital, but because they're just going to show out at the combine, just show their freak athletic ability, and
Yeah.
that's going to cause them to rise a little bit there. So I don't think they get to the back end of the third, but if they do, like the get was the other guy I was looking at too. So if they do get to you at the back end of the third, that's a guy that you definitely take him. I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like these are the guys that have the traits NFL teams love, right?
Mhm.
Because they're just bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. They could just bully you. They could do these things a lot of wide receivers. Like we did, we have a bigger draft class for wide receivers in general, but they do things a lot of wide receivers can't. So from
Right.
that perspective, like absolutely. And I heard about this yesterday where they talk about like the likeness of a player. Like
Mhm.
you draft these guys in round 3 and round 4, like they don't have to hit. You just want them to gain value enough where you can trade them away. So like if you're
Right.
looking in this range and you see guys that we're torn on, and for instance, if it's like Roman Wilson, Burton, Baker, and Penix, if you want to grab the guy you think is going to give you the best chance to trade him, like it's Roman Wilson easily, right? Because people
Yeah.
like him more. So
Right.
if you're in these late ranges, like you could treat these picks like that, and you don't even have to have them hit. It's just about them being
Yeah.
one person in your league liking them, so you can trade them for a profit.
Yeah, and I think the third round is critical. If you can get some second round picks, those are a little bit harder to acquire. So if you acquire those
Mm-hmm.
third round and those fourth rounds again, like you mentioned, to have that value, and there's always a guy that a wide receiver is something that no one expects gets drafted in the second or third round, and it's like, wait, what? Like that guy wasn't even on my board, right? We see it
Mm-hmm.
time and time again, and they end up dropping because no one knows about them. Like it's like we didn't really Luke McCaffrey, let's just say it's him, right? But then
Yep.
he gets that second round capital, but yet no one he wasn't one of your star guys. He was out at Rice, right? But he's the brother of Christian McCaffrey. So when he gets to that third round, that fourth round, it's like I'm gonna take him, and guess what? This is a guy I am gonna try to trade off that name value because you just need that one pop, and then you go to a team that like, hey man, he just put up, 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. And that's a good lineup there, and you go ahead and trade it and try to get a late second out of that just to move up a little bit. So,
100%.
yeah, I agree that's you draft for the possibility. The third round, you get a lot of maybe things that can happen, but I think you draft for the possibility of being able to get that pop on them and trade up as well. I agree.
100%, man. I think it's a solid and underused strategy that can work out every year. Realistically, there's always,
Right,
especially this time of year, we don't have draft capital, right? So
right,
like,
for
if
sure.
you're doing drafts now, which is that's chaos. Like that you do you if you want to do that.
Right.
But yeah, like that's a route that could absolutely work out for people. So
Mhm.
you just use any advantage you can, and I think a lot of these guys fall into that range because as much as we like third round pitch, the majority of them are not going to hit. That's just the
Mhm.
fact of how it is with fantasy football. So you kind of
Yeah,
know that going in, and you just take your shot on the guys you like or guys you can trade away.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Overall, it's a good mock. Each mock outside the top six, each mock is different with what we go with, right? I think the
Mm-hmm.
top six we've seen those consistently. The order is always different. Like I said, Jaden Daniels possibly move up. Even Drake may move up. Hell, Bowers may move up if he ends up getting capital ahead of neighbors, right? So
Yeah,
a lot of things can definitely change up here, but those top six I think are set in. I even think of Jaden Daniels. I did a mock the other day where he dropped all the way down to the Raiders at 13. I think that's the pick they have. Even
yeah,
then, I think he still gets top six capital. I think you're just those top three quarterbacks are going regardless.
yeah,
So outside of that, everything's changing up. We're gonna keep doing some mocks every weekend. I think is our goal to try to do a mock draft. So keep doing some here, but I think our top six is a lock, and yeah, that's all we got.
yeah. So thanks for joining us this week. We'll set up another one next week, as Essie's saying. But yeah, we might do 4 rounds next week. We might do one QB. We kind of mix it up each time. So just stay posted and just thanks for joining us and enjoying the show because solid half hour we get it done and we move on. So hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a good weekend, folks.
Take it easy.